Anthony Trucks. Dude, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Hey, man, I'm happy to be here. Good to hang out with you. Chilling, big chilling. Hey.
So you have a book coming out, I guess a week from today, right? Tuesday, Identity
Yeah.
Shift.
It's a week
Is that right?
exactly. It's finally here, man.
Unbelievable. You've
The
lived
big-
an amazing life. You spent some time in the NFL. You were on American Ninja Warrior. You're a speaker, podcaster, just all around awesome dude. And you decided to write a book. I love this idea. And you just told me it took you 10 days, 10 days to write a book. I'm sure you've been thinking about it for a long time, but to kind of put words on paper. So
Yeah.
tell me about that, man.
Yeah. Well, the first book took 7 days. It was longer. It was an autobiography. I drove to Sparks, Nevada the first time and locked myself in a room. I bought food from the Walmart and I had like this weird timeshare. And I was like, I'm not leaving the room. And I didn't take a shower. I would seriously go to sleep and I would wake up and write until I couldn't. And then I would go to sleep and I just stay in the same room. I would eat and I would poop. I wouldn't even shower. So that was that. The second time around, I was a little bit smarter about it. Like, I understood what to do. So what I did is, like, leading up to actually sitting down and writing chapters, I had a normal thought of like, how would I organize the writing of a book? And I try to take it and make it simple. So I said, what are the concepts, like maybe the thoughts or ideas or like, quotes,
Yeah.
whatever. What are the concepts of identity shift that I would need to have people understand or learn in order for them to get the concept? I just started making a list, not even organize a list. Then I said, what stories of my life would resonate in a way that I could infuse them to make it make sense for people? And then what data, like what would I need to put in place from like studies or like, thoughts that would anchor this? And so I had that just all in an Evernote. And then I sat down and then I organized all the thoughts into the way, like the manner in which I would have to tell you to convince you. Like a lawyer having to convince you of the case. How would I organize this in a way to convince you that this is what you need to understand and do, and then how to do that? So I put that in order, and then I was like, all right, what stories match? Well, this story goes here, and this one could go here, and this could go here. And then what data would back that up? Well, this goes here for this, and I just organized it. And then I was like, all right, now, like, literally, if you look at my Evernote, it's organized in a manner to where it's like there was yellow, green, and like an orangish pink color. And yellow was the concepts, green was the stories, and that pink was like the different data points. And every chapter
Jeez.
has that stuff structured. Then I just sat down and said, all right, today I write this chapter. So I sat down and wrote chapter 1, and then the next day I would write chapter 2. Now, I didn't do it in 10 days. I did it over time, right? So I would do
Right.
like I would write a chapter today, and then I would go back to my life for a while, for like a week or two, and then I would come back and do another chapter. But if you talk about actual sit down, write the book, it was 10 days of writing a chapter a day whenever I did.
That's such a cool idea. And what's really interesting about this, because you've had success throughout your life. And I feel like people who are successful kind of have, I don't know if it's a template or a blueprint, but you obviously have honed in on at least how to create value and success in your own life and put it towards writing a book. Well, A, where did you learn this blueprint to be able to say, okay, this is how I'm going to write a book?
Yeah.
But B, like, what is it about your life that's allowed you to learn this?
Yeah. My life sucked was one part of it, right? It's a lot of things I think in life end up by sheer survival. So, like, I grew up in I was given away at 3, man. Went to a really heinous foster care system that beat me. I just grew up in turmoil. Different ethnic family. I was the only black kid in an all white family. Grew up really poor. Didn't have much, just nothing. So, like, you end up
Mm.
fighting to figure out life. And it's a great statement I love, and it's a quote actually. And it says, "A smooth sea makes not a skilled sailor." And it's
Oh,
this statement that, for me, and a lot of people, you have trouble, trouble situation, no matter when it is. Like, we all hate those moments, and like, I don't like that it happened, but I appreciate it because it made me really strong. And so, like you said, had success throughout sex, had success throughout your life. I didn't have sex throughout my life, thankfully. I did have young. I had a kid at like 20 years old. That was in college too, of all time. So, anyways, probably was having sex throughout my life. No, but like, you get to the point of success always comes on the backside of an aspiration, and then having to climb a hill, no matter what it is. Success would always be yours if there was no hill to climb. I just learned how to climb hills. I learned how to navigate rough seas. At every step I went into, I was like, let me figure this piece out. I like puzzles, so everything was a puzzle to me. It's like, how do I solve this stupid thing I'm
man.
dealing with? And the more you do it, the better you get at it. To where at a certain point in time, It's almost like you like, Neo in the Matrix. I can see things differently. Like, I think I walk into
Yeah.
life with a different filter, having just been through enough crap to where I can go like, "Hey, I've been through a divorce and a remarriage to the same woman after 3 years divorce. I've been the bad dad. I've had the bad business. I've been the out of shape guy. I've been the guy who had no friendship. I've been this guy. I've all the stuff I've done, but at this point now, I've been on television. My family's in place. I write books. I rock and roll. I speak. I talk. I own up to all the craziness of my life and difficulties. I was in the NFL and fell out of the NFL. Like all these things are part of my life. And so now I come back and go, look, I'm not a guru. I do not have all the answers, but I have some, maybe a little bit more than you. And I can see that thing that you don't know, you don't know. And if I can plant this in you just a little bit to
Mm,
grasp that expansion of knowledge, people go, "Oh, I didn't know that." I think perspective precedes enlightenment. It's that new viewpoint. You go, "Ah, aha, now I see it," right? So that's my goal is like, how can I take all this stuff I've gone, the race that I've run, and cross the finish line of and turn around and go, "Hey, this is how you run that race better."
yeah. That's a really cool quote that you use too. So I'm curious to know, I mean, you have gone through a lot of different experiences, and the quote you used was, hopefully I get it right, but it was something along the lines of smooth seas don't make a good skilled sailor.
Yeah.
Well, wavy seas, right, are just barraging you constantly. So
Yeah.
which waves in your life do you feel like you learned the most from?
Oh man, it's a bunch. But one for sure was being a young teen, 20-year-old father in college, meeting my real dad like the same year. So having an
Really?
dad. Yeah, I met him. Yeah, my biological dad. I met him like the same year I had my son. It was very weird how I found him, and but then I got to meet him, so I kind of finally knew who my real dad was. I had grandparents commit suicide in college. In the NFL, it's up and down. I mean, you have I'm with this team. This is great. No, go home. Like, oh, you get cut and you have to go home multiple times. I get injured. I lose my entire identity from football. When I lose my career, I'm at my business. I started a business, a gym, and actually within 9 months, I was looking at bankruptcy, and I somehow kept it open. But it was like stressful all the time. My marriage falls apart, and I'm sitting there being just a single guy living in a 500 square foot studio apartment with my kids,
Mm,
sleeping on an air mattress. Like they just keep coming, man. There's no
yeah,
shortage of them. Like life has an interesting way of giving you a lot to deal with, and if you can't handle it, it'll feel like a big wave. Or if you're a surfer, it's like, hey, give me more. I like it, right? It's a matter of how are you capable of handling the waves. And so early on, if you just like I got some big ones early on, and I was up in that rip curl they'll call it, getting pulled down, but I found a way to keep somebody to the top. And the more you do, the more you look at it like this is fun. I can figure this out. And when life throws things at me now, it's like it's almost like a weird giggle in my head. I'm like, again, you gonna try again? Like, here we go. And so it's a different mentality. But that for me is like the waves. I appreciate them much more, and I think we all should.
yeah. Yeah, it's let's talk about some of these waves because I would imagine at 3 years old you weren't like, great, a riptide.
No, no, you know,
You're being ripped. You're yeah. I mean, you're being ripped away from your family, but you were given away by your family, as you say, and put into foster care. I mean, what's it like for a 3 year old? I grew up in more of a conventional, I guess I would call it, household where I did have my parents and my brother in the house.
yeah.
I mean, what's it like for a 3 year old? What kind of lasting impact does that have? What's going through the mind of a 3 year old Anthony Trucks as he's going into the foster care system?
Well, the thing is, there's no logic thought. You're just a child. I remember things. I remember the layouts of houses. I remember the emotion. Like I couldn't tell you the thought behind it, but I remember feeling like it's just an overwhelming sense of fear and unknown. Like, and I say
Mm,
overwhelming, I mean it's a barrage on the mind, because you don't know where you're at. You don't know who these people are. It's foreign to you completely, and a lot of the people aren't taking care of you properly. Like I was being forced to chase chickens to earn meals and put in shopping carts and push down hills, and I was forced to lick the bottom of people's shoes, like really weird stuff. And like if I wet the bed, they'd beat me, and if I was playing with my toys, they'd come and kick me and knock them out. It's just really weird. All these so all I can recall are the emotions and the feelings of what took place, to be quite honest. And it's in the middle of those, you just a lot of the time you just wonder why are people so crazy? But that's what I can connect to. I can, in my adult logical brain, I can think differently. But if I go to base root of that 3-year-old, it's just a sheer fear.
man. And did it feel like you were just you say foreign, right? And that it makes sense. It's almost like you're just dropped off in this foreign country. You don't know the language, you don't know anybody. You're just there trying to survive. I mean, what were these survival did you have any survival tactics or mechanisms that allowed you to kind of continue as you're in those situations?
No, you develop them though. Like you little by little, you develop them. The thing is, in my thoughts is like whenever you go through these moments, like if you look at any prison in America, some 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. Like seriously, there's half the homeless population has spent time in foster care, and like less than 1% of us will ever graduate from college. So statistically, we're set up poorly. And I think what it is you have these things happen, but you don't have the tools. You don't. And so a lot of the time, what you do is you develop them by sheer survival. So I had to learn how to be able to communicate, how to talk, how to express, how to ask for things, how to be charismatic, to have people not beat me or to
Hmm.
give me food or all these weird things. So what ends up happening is by the time I'm like, I can tell foster kids by talking to them earlier on that most people can. And it's most people go, oh, that's really smart. That's not just intelligence. It's not just smarts. Like it's
Mm.
a survival. Like I'll find kids that I'll meet and I'll go places and I talk a lot to the foster kids and I'll be like, a lot of you guys in here, you got mouthpiece, huh? What do you mean? I said, you guys can probably talk your way out of situations or you can kind of, manipulate people to do what you want. You have that skill, right? They go, yeah. And I go, that's a survival skill. It's a great thing to have if you use it properly. You can use it poorly and do some bad things, but you learn these things by just sheer survival. That's the problem. And then what we do is we don't understand how or not taught how to apply it to a positive. We're taught that there's something wrong with us or shown we are because even my own family didn't love me and want me, right? So I take this
Mm.
skill set and it gets used for evil. Whereas to be quite honest, a lot of those kids, it's like they're like superhuman. They don't get it yet though. And anybody that's gone
Yeah.
through trials and tribulations at a younger age, like it's a phenomenal superpower if you use it properly. Look at like the what Black Widow. She went through that craziness as a kid. The whole movie's based on that, and she's a beast. It's really the thing is, I don't wish it upon people, but some of the things we're doing that are hindering kids growing up is we're robbing them of their hardships. I don't say you give them to them on purpose at the level mine were, but yeah, man, there are definite things where those experiences I went through absolutely sucked. However, I developed a skill set by surely trying to stay alive.
So that's a lot of what you talk about, right, is utilizing this emotion, this history, these experiences to kind of build these survival skills and to then use those for success later on in life. But like you said, I mean, 75% of foster kids end up in prison. So
75% of inmates are. I don't know if it's 75% of
or
the total, but yeah.
or okay, yeah, so 70, yeah, of people in prison were in foster care.
Right.
So what separates someone who takes this experience and kind of goes one way versus takes the same experience, or I don't want to say the same, but a similar background and
Mhm.
utilizes it as survival tools to build success like yourself.
The difference is what I see as possible. I think that's
Mm.
gotta be the separation. Because if you don't think something's possible, why try? Right? That's kind of a reality. Like it's like, well, if I don't think it's gonna be something I can actually do, why would I try in the first place? And so for me, I found that if a kid sees it as this is something I could actually do and it could possibly work out in a positive manner, then you know what? I'm gonna end up doing more of it. And if not, then I'm just gonna go and do whatever the hell I want to do. Because if you ask a kid, hey, would you like to have a life where you have maybe more money, better relationships, and you're not in trouble? They'd be like, yeah, I want that. But they don't think it's possible. It's like, yeah, that's
Mm.
that's pipe dream. I didn't even have that growing up. What makes you think I can get it now, right? So I think the difference is at some point somebody changes that. For me, it was my adoptive mom. She gave me this perspective that although my real mom didn't want me like they did, they wanted me. They loved me. They cared for me. They wanted me to be part of the family. And so when you have somebody like love you out of that shell, it becomes a little bit different. And so like that was the anchoring point. That was like, oh, maybe I am good and deserve something good. And so then you start taking those skill sets and applying them to a positive direction. And then lo and behold, life works out. So I got this college scholarship and I got these things moving and it wasn't an accident. It was a matter of me doing the work. But here's the crazy part, the more that I did the things, the better I felt. And it seems logical But I'm gonna make
Mm.
like a metaphor so people can grab this. Most of us are living in houses that were built for us, or, and I'm not talking about physical, I'm talking about emotional house first. The
Okay.
emotional identity house. We live in this house that mom and dad said, you're great, you're great, you're amazing, I love you, all this kind of stuff. And that's the house we got. So, like you said, like my kids are growing up like you grew up, right? Everything's good. Mom and dad in the house, all's golden, right? This is the house they have. Now, some people don't have a nice house. I didn't grow up in a nice emotional house. I didn't grow up in a place where I felt like I mattered. So the only house I had to live in was this shanty shack of a man or a human, right? And then what
Yeah.
happens is we want to go to this, that we look across the street and go, man, that's an awesome, I'd like to have a house like that, but like I don't. All I have is this house. And the reality is no one wants to be homeless. So we don't leave this house. We stay here as this
Mm.
person, even if we know it sucks, because I don't want to go out there and not know who I am. The reality is if you want to get to that better house, what you do is you take all the skill sets that you have and you go out day by day and you go and build brick by brick the other house. You come back and live in this house, but eventually you've built that house to where you can now move. And
Yeah.
as much as people want to go live in that house of confidence, of joy, of self-esteem and everything, they're never going to have it because they're not building that house. They're not taking the actions. They're not putting themselves out there. They're not doing the brick by brick, day by day work. So they'll forever and always be in this house, wanting that house that doesn't exist yet. And they don't want to be homeless. So lo and behold, we stay in this negative cycle because this is the only house I can live in.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit because you did say that your adopted mother gave you this love and foundation to kind of provide you the understanding that maybe success was something that was possible for you.
Yeah.
But not everybody that grows up in that situation. And look, people that grew up in a conventional household still might not have that situation. They might have abusive parents. They may be verbally abused. They may just be neglected.
Yeah.
So, how does someone take their experience without without understanding that success is possible? How can someone go from, I don't realize this is possible, to maybe something is possible without even having that adoptive mother come in?
Yeah. You could be a foster kid and have those things happen. You could be a regular kid that has those things happen. And if you don't have somebody, it's okay. The funny thing is, people like to help those who are swimming towards the shore, like a lifeguard. If they go out and there's two people drowning, they're not going to go and like adamantly help the person swimming away from them, right? It's like, oh, you're swimming into the
Mm,
deep end. I'm not going out there. I'm going to help this person trying to get to shore. So the cool thing is, most people like to be surrounded by ambitious people, people trying to do better. And while you might feel alone or feel like you would be a burden on somebody who's doing better, the reality is man, people with the big hearts that have done stuff, we want to go back and help you. But they say you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves, who's swimming away from the shore. So when you start doing the work for yourself, people start noticing. Like people will see. So if you're in that place of I don't feel worthy, I don't know, right? You got to start doing the work and people notice it. Now here's the one caveat: you're going to want it to be certain people. You're going to want it to be your real
mm,
mom, like I did. You're going to want it to be your mom and dad. You're going to want it to be those people. But if it's not for them to do it, you got to stop getting your fuel from them. Because if I place my self worth in the hands of someone that doesn't see me as worthy, I will always feel unworthy. If I place in the
yeah.
hands of the teacher, the coach, the preacher, the leader who says, great job, I put it in those hands and I feel that, I'll become more of that. So it's doing the work to where the right people see you.
Yeah. So I've got this theory about how to build an inner circle. And I've been trying to figure out the best way to really put it into words. But what I've realized is the people you surround yourself with, I can kind of break down into three different buckets, and I call them the three C's. I call
Mhm.
them cheerleaders, challengers, and champions. And it may be friends, it may be mentors, it may be anything, right? But there's a place for all three, but only one of them truly helps you grow. And this is where I think it might translate a little bit into your history, my history, everything is, you may grow up in a house where all you have is cheerleaders, right? And
Yeah.
it just may be people superficially saying, hey,
Remain.
Ryan, you could do anything you want. You could be president. You could do whatever. Great job. Hey, you did a great job. I know you struck out in your baseball game 4 times today, but
Yeah.
you tried really hard. Great job. I love you anyway, right? You
Uh-huh.
also may grow up in a house where, Anthony's growing up and it's like, hey, lick this shoe. You want to eat? Go get that chicken, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just constant challenges. And there's never, hey, good job, you got the chicken, right? It's
Yep.
just okay, on to the next thing. Challenge, 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 challenge. But then there's champions.
Mhm.
And I think you need to actively seek out champions in your life. And these champions are people who know when to be a cheerleader, know when to be a challenger, but have the experience and have the understanding to help you get to where you want to be. And I think it's important to actively seek those out. So, like you said, when you're doing the work, I think one of the biggest things that you can do is seek out individuals in situations where you want to be that are willing to help you and pick
Part of
their
it.
brain, follow them, not have imposter syndrome, like be them, but see what worked for them.
It's an
So,
identity.
what are some, go ahead.
That's what I do. That's my work and identity. I actually have us do research at certain parts, and the biggest thing is you have to. I don't think we're the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. There's a, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I think it's only part of it. I think it's like 80%. I think we're the average of the expectations of the 5 people.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more.
So, I mean, we're talking about being around good people that pull you up, right? Which is great and it's totally cool. But at a certain point, if the expectations of an individual don't go farther than, as maybe as far as mine want to go, then this person's of no use to me. So, say for example that money is as the thing. Everybody gets money, right? It's a universal thing. So let's say that I have $500,000. I make $500,000 a year, and like I want to make $2 million a year. Well, most people would say, well, you should hang out with a guy or a girl who they make $1 million a year because they make more than you, right? Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But what if that it's either the choice of the person who's content at 1 million or the person that makes maybe 500,000 with me, but that person's like, I want to make $2 million too. Well, expectations are above the $1 million people. Can we learn from the $1 million? Yeah, we can learn something. But like at a certain point, I'm going to get to where they're at, and they're not going to have aspirations for more, expectations for more. So I'll stay stuck. So it could be like that in relationships, in my health, right? If someone's like, hey, expectation is to stop eating McDonald's versus my expectations to get in great shape and lower my body fat. Well, yeah, like that expectation is not high enough. And I'll be the average of people who are okay with never working out and just not eating McDonald's. Right. So this area is different. So what you're saying is like, yeah, we got to have the people. And I get the champions perspective too. I like the idea of like, because champions challenge, right? Because I get the challenge, which is
Yeah.
always like, you suck, the way you're framing it. The way I heard it was someone that's like the challenger in a sense. I'm like, that person is going to challenge me to be better. But I get what you're framing it. But if you put it in the area of champions, we don't like it easy. I
Yes.
thoroughly enjoy the difficult moments because they make me see who I am. And if I find out that I'm not, great right now, I don't feel like I'm not a great human. I just feel like I need to develop that skill set because champions find weaknesses and improve upon them. There's a joy within the process of doing it. So that's a whole bunch of thoughts. I don't know what we'll do with them. It's like a burrito. We rolled it up and ate it.
Let's just roll it up. But that's a great way to look at it, and I love this idea of the expectation because you're absolutely right. And the way I like to look at that would be if you want to get in great shape. Like I know people that are jacked,
Mhm.
thin, in amazing shape that eat fast food every day. Like,
Yeah,
you all know them, right? And
yeah.
you're like, how in the world do you look like that? Like, you can't fuel that body on KFC. Well, some people can, right?
Some
So
can.
if you're like, well, I want to hang out with that guy, right? I want him in my network. He looks the way I want to look. That may not be as meaningful as being with someone who weighs 300 pounds and has dropped 50 or dropped 75 and is on this journey to become the super fit person that has this amazing functional body and understanding of health and wellness because they're on the journey and their ambition may be much higher than that other individual who
Yeah,
just has that physique. And I love that you're talking about the average of the expectations and not the outcomes.
yeah.
So what I want to ask you though is you played in the NFL.
I
And I would
did.
imagine that there's a lot of people in the NFL that are just elite athletes, right?
There's some.
So, in the same way, yes, some. But in the same way, like when you're on your path to the NFL, let's talk about these average of the 5 people's expectations. Like, what are these expectations? What kind of mindset do you have to have if you don't have that elite athleticism to get you to that pinnacle of sport?
Yeah, I mean, It's tough because it has to be both. There's athleticism and there's the part of like the mentality. Here's the cool thing about sports: if you produce, you'll stay.
Yeah.
That's it. If you are too good to keep off the field, they can't keep you off the field. Now, good is production. Can I put the numbers up? Look at a guy like Tom Brady. The dude, if you look at him, he's not the most gifted athlete in the world. He's not. But he produces like a monster with that arm, right? So he produces and stays. I don't know what his 40 is, but I'm pretty sure it's like the sixes. Maybe not the six. The dude's dirt slow. So the
Yeah.
idea is like, but he's monster what he does because he developed the abilities that he needed to be to produce. And so if you want to be an elite level athlete, the concept is not about one comparison because you're never going to be as fast as the next guy or as strong as the next guy because there's only one of those guys, two of those guys in the entire league usually, right?
Yeah.
But if you produce, right? So what's production? Well, production looks like, am I in the right system? Like, am I in the right environment of structure that plays to my strengths, right? A guy like maybe, I don't know, back in the day, Ed McCaffrey was a possession receiver, bro, throwing the ball and sticking to his damn hands. You got Wes Welker's the same kind of guy.
Yep.
These guys, they're great in the systems they were in. They also at the same time, like they maximized their ability to be great at their area of expertise. So if it was like short routes, great. I'm gonna be phenomenal at short routes. I'm gonna do every slant, hitch, under dig that you ever seen like a dream. It's gonna be beautiful. So you play into whatever your strengths are and you capitalize on those. And the big piece is thinking about the momentum. There is something to be said about, I mean, obviously there's always the athletic part of it, right? There's going to be a part of the body. Most people think like, I want to wait until like, at the right time. Then I'm going to start working real hard and prepare. I'm all about, man, work stupid hard every moment of life that you can. And if you can do that, then what happens when the opportunity arises, you are always beyond ready. And then what's also
Mm.
cool is it actually aids your ability to do the rest of the stuff. For example, if I want to be able to run routes and catch footballs, well, if I don't have a strong body to run and move and cut and catch, I physically can't learn the skill set someone's trying to teach me. So most people are like, oh, I just can't do it, and they compensate, and it's like it's problematic. But it's like that body you need to run that route they're teaching you now, you need to start building that 4 years ago. You need to be able to build the
Mm.
size and then the strength and then the power and then the body control and then the endurance to do it all day long. Because if I can't have you run 10 solid routes, well, and you're done at two, well, then it sucks. I only get two good reps. You don't get the rest of the work, right? Little things like
Yeah.
this all compound. And so that's athletics, but same thing applies to now. Are you reading the books you need to read for your job you're going to have 4 years ago that in some way may transpire to you having this great career because you're prepared for it, because you did the work and took that class properly, right? Maybe it's going to be a matter of, if it is physical, did you take care of your body enough to where you could be in shape to travel across the country to be able to have these speeches and present and be at top level every speech. And so you stood out in the company because every time you showed up, you had great energy and you showed up and people saw you, and then the numbers turn out well because you just had great energy. You weren't overtaxed. You didn't have a big belly and you weren't having, I don't know, sleepless nights or sleep apnea, because that happens. Like if you get someone doing all this work and your body's not prepared to do it, you're not going to do it at the highest level. So there's little things that trickle in to athletics. They're all part of life. And everybody they look at it like, oh, that person's an athlete. No, man, like we all have bodies. I just use mine a little differently, but we all have this concept of moving and using it to do our jobs properly. And if you can pay attention to that, it'll help you thrive anywhere.
Yeah, it's building a foundation,
It is.
right? And it's
Sure.
it's like anything, like the strength or the stability of the structure is predicated on the foundation that's kind of set forth.
Mhm.
So in your opinion then, you've had success. What are the five most important things anyone can do that wants to achieve success or greatness at any level to build a strong foundation in their life?
Number one, and number 1 through 5 right now is identity shift. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to make it that boring for you. No, but number one, dude, is my most. Here's the thing: we live in this world of what I call, it's the epidemic of self esteem.
Ooh,
We have
self-esteem.
self esteem, dude. We have vastly too much information, and there's an overload amount of it. There are more books and courses and things that people have bought and not consumed than the world may have ever experienced in the past. Like usually you buy
Mm.
a book, you read the book from the library, you got 2 weeks, right? This people buy books and they never read them. It never gets read. And it's like, oh, it's odd, right? And or they buy courses and they buy it with no intention of when am I going to do it? I'm just going to buy it and it's magically going to go into my head. And it's like, no, it doesn't. So we get it, we
Yeah.
feel good that we got it, and this steam pops up, but we don't even get it into our bodies. And then if we are one of the 10% that actually consume it, because it's like less than 10%, well,
That's crazy.
of that, yeah, seriously, I want to say 93% of courses, maybe not even higher, but I think at minimum 93% of courses people buy, they go unconsumed and books go unread. So about 7 to 10% of people actually consume it. And then you got 1 to 3% of people actually apply it in real life.
Mm.
So we wonder why is a 1%. Now, there's definitely a 1% of people that were like long generational wealth. Let's be honest. The Waltons at Walmart, they got
Yeah.
their money a little different from inheritance. But the individuals that worked for it, there's some ridiculous. I want to say like 90% of millionaires like self-made, man. They just build, and it's because they did what the 1 to 3% of people do. And so when you ask what's number one, the issue is not. I want that to be anchored. It's not the information. Here's what it is. It's the person with it. It's who are you with it? Because what I found is there'll be a moment in time that my clients get to, and it's just inevitable, right? They got the information. It's like, all right, you got to get this thing done by next week. Well, next week rolls around, and I go, did you get it done? Oh, I didn't get it done. Why didn't you get it done? Oh, well, this happened, and then this happened, this popped up, and this, and I go, oh, hold on, pause. Let me ask you a question real quick. What was the dream again? Oh, I want to have more money, more time, more freedom. Okay, great. Do you think the person that has all that in their life right now would have made these excuses and not got it done?
Exactly.
It's a straightforward question. And then you're like, oh, and then that should be the massive glowing blue light that says, bing, it's not the information because you knew what to do. You had time to do it. For some reason, you weren't the person who was not going to go to sleep until it got done.
Yes.
It's a version of you at what I call your zone identity. It's a version of you that has this itch in them that there's no way I'm going to get through a week and not have this completed. It will not happen. It's not who I am, because when it's who you are in identity level, it gets done, and it gets done with effortless effort. You do it, and it's easy. People look at you. How did you make it happen so easy? Well, because it's who I am. Where it was hard for you to do it, it was harder for me not to do it. There's an
Yes.
alignment.
I recently heard, I can't remember exactly where I heard the phrase, but and it's gonna bug me. But it was like the 1% of people, right? Like you always get told it's this limiting belief, like, oh, you can't, Anthony, you can't play in the NFL. Only 1% of people will make it to the NFL. And it's
Mhm.
exactly what you're saying. Yes, 1% of people will make it to the NFL. You know what? 1% of people are going to put in the damn work.
That's it.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's this great correlation of what you're saying. It's like, yeah, don't limit your belief. Understand that anything is possible
It's all there.
so long as you put the work in to make it achievable.
And I'll put one additional bubble asterisk on this that no one's going to want to hear. The work that it takes, the hard work, is beyond what you believe it needs to be. It's beyond what it's comprehensible
Mm.
for you. Because here's the truth: you cannot have a dream that is farther than your identity. So, like, essentially,
Yeah.
like my identity must match the dream, or the dream can't be realized. And understanding that identity is going to take work that your brain right now cannot comprehend. Bro, if you look at my schedule for the next, like the last 5 weeks, and even this week, I'm starting every day. Today I started at 5:30 a.m. I'm not done until 8. And I'm not talking about not done like I got blocks of. I have a half an hour of my own time for my life between 5:30 and 8 p.m. tonight. A half an hour. Now that's a speed that most people cannot adapt to, understand. They're like, how do you get through it? I just have a way I live my life. But I'll tell you this right now, it's who I am to get it done. It's a different ticket, different level,
Yeah.
different flow. And this level of hard work, most people would quite literally give up halfway through the day. But this is the level of hard work at this moment in my life. Not all the time. It's a small window for a book launch, but this is the kind of effort it takes. And now some people will go to half that and go, I worked so hard. Why don't I have what I want? Well, because you didn't work at the level the dream demands you to work. You worked at what level you felt comfortable giving, not the level the dream was expecting from you to have it. So you're right. 1% of people will get it, but 1% of people are willing to do the work that 1% demands.
Yeah, well, it's that whole and I would imagine you're familiar with David Goggins. It's that whole
Yeah.
40% rule that
There's
he
more.
has. It's look, you think you're at 100%, you're really at 40. You could go
Yeah.
so much more. So it's you're limiting your potential by limiting what you think the work required really could be.
Hmm.
And then not only that, but there's just so much more that needs to be done kind of after that 40% to get to that 100. So
Yeah.
what else? What else is required to achieve that greatness?
Yeah. You got to peel back the ego. So
Mm,
this is the steps. So first off, the thing anchoring it, you got to make an identity shift. The next four are like how you do it. One is you got to peel
yeah.
back the ego because the ego will protect whatever identity is in place right now, good or bad. The ego protects the identity with its actions, right? With the efforts you give. So, for example, if I want to be, I'm a great football player. My ego of great football player will show up in protecting it with actions of going to practice, lifting weights, eating the right food, reading the playbook, because I want to be a great football player. The identity protects that. Now, also,
Mm,
I was a great football player. So the ego popped in and said, no one can tell you anything about business. You played in the league. You're smart. You know stuff. You can work real hard. So the ego protected that identity and wouldn't let it give itself permission to improve. So I thought I was doing the right stuff. And next thing I'm almost bankrupt in business. My marriage falls
mm,
apart. I'm not a good dad because I wouldn't let the ego go away enough so I could take the insights of what was really going on inside. Because when you can give yourself permission to improve, now you can actually live a better life. But until that takes place, you will try and stay where you're at, which means you will discount, you will demean, you will diminish all those things. You'll discount the fact that you need to do work. You'll demean other people to bring them back down when they poke at you. You'll diminish the fact that there's a problem as big as the problem is, right? So the ego is a massive issue. I call it everyone's greatest obstacle, EGO. And
oh
if
wow.
you can navigate this bad boy and just put it to sleep, man, like, hey, go take a night for a little bit. Let me go do what I do. That will give you the ability to start saying, this is what I need to work on. And then you can work on it. The next one would be what I call the C phase, or like seeing. Because
Okay.
once the ego goes away, now I can see things. I can see clearly now. Yeah, I could see it. But the thing is, it's not going to be fun to see. There's a moment when I woke up in 2016. I was like, I hate this guy in the mirror right now. Like, he is not a good
Really?
dude, right? Genuinely, didn't I was like, no one in my life should be around this. My daughter shouldn't be with a guy like me. My boys shouldn't be like me. Just a bad dude. And I was like, this has got to be adjusted. And the reality is it wasn't until I saw myself that I would do anything. Because
Mm,
even if the ego goes away, you can have the ego go away, but you still may not allow yourself to see what's going on. Because people in your life will tell you what's going on. Your mom, your dad, your cousin, they'll tell you like, "Hey, honey, you're not doing a great, right? No, no, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good." And we do all that, and then we don't see it. So if I don't see it, why would I commit to improving upon it? Why would I commit to fixing it?
yeah.
Right? Because I don't see it. And so when you finally see and you go, oh, yeah, I'm a bad dad, man. I'm a bad husband. I'm not good at business. Then you've now given yourself permission to actually work on this thing.
How can
One,
people see it?
well, it's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar.
Yeah.
When it's just me, it's like, it's hard to see it. Now you can see some stuff. Sometimes you can look out of the jar and see a little bit of reflection on the wall beside you. Like that label kind of says you're being mean to people for no reason, right? But you kind of
Mm,
need to bring individuals into the fold that see you every day and say, hey, I'm gonna ask you some questions. I need you to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And these are the people that
mm.
love you. And they'll tell you things and it hurts. But that's how you do it. It's a process. We use a process in the shift method, which is in my book. And it's actually what I coach all my clients through is a specific method, but it'll uncover those things. So you'll see yourself. You won't like it, but you'll see it. And so if you can enlist outside people who can see the label and tell you what the label says, you go, oh, damn, okay. And the ego goes away. Now I can give myself permission to work on it. So that's kind of the big thing. But
Yeah,
then,
a lot of companies have like and I've never done one, but I'd be interested to do it. I don't know if my frail ego could handle it, but they'll do like the 360 review. Have you ever heard of those?
no, I have not. Mm-mm.
And I think it's called a 360 review, and they end up sending like these questionnaires out to all these different people that you might interact with, managers, employees, coworkers, whatever it is. And it's like brutally honest, and they sit there and they just barrage you. And
Yeah.
it really kind of breaks you down to a level where I would imagine I'd end up in tears on the floor. But it's that self-awareness that's required, because it's like you said, if you don't strip away everything, your identity really, then
What it is.
you have no idea what you can improve upon.
None.
And understanding and having the awareness to know what needs to be improved, or also know your strengths too that you can work with. If you don't know that, then how do you know what you're working with, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's the big thing is most people, they're deathly afraid of that. They want to stay in a bubble and they wonder why they can't get more accomplished. That's the thing is people who I find struggle to actually let somebody tell them what's going on and take that hard feedback, they usually fall short of success immensely. Or if they do get
Mm.
it, they burn bridges around them and no one likes them and they're just mean people because they did it by sheer barrage. But those who do it with flow, like who are able to make more money and have more time, but they're happy people. They're happy because like they've done that work of understanding what's going on and what their roadblocks have been. So when you remove those, success moves so much smoother. You get to the sense of like power, like, oh, I got this. Anything that comes my way, I got this figured out, right? That's the big piece. But once you have that, the next piece of it's what I call like an individualized shift plan, like a plan to,
Mm.
because nice individualize is a big word there. Because if you don't have something specific to you, you will borrow other people's habits and then end up in their outcomes, and they're not always that great.
Yeah.
Or even if they had stuff to work on, like, the problem is people don't realize just because your boss Sharon operates a certain way doesn't mean you should take the habit on. She's just your boss. She's not your God. Like, so if you look at her life and go, I don't like that person's life in that area, don't borrow their habits. It's the stupidest thing. Like, and it could be things that look good. Sharon runs every day for 5 miles a day. Yeah, but Sharon hates her husband, so she leaves early enough to not have to see him before work. You know, like we don't think about this
Yes.
little thing. We're not paying attention. So we don't realize like not everything somebody does you should do. You got to find your specific stuff to do. And it's got to be in some kind of a plan or an order, because if not, we will revert back to the natural flow of our current identity. So I need to
Mm.
find out what are the things that are planned for me to execute on that again are hard in the beginning. And then eventually you do them so much they become hard not to do them. What are those things? And what will you become? It's great books on habits and stuff, but they don't talk about the identity that you will build into. They say habits create the identity, right? What identity are you making? You're just grabbing things. So make a personalized plan that's going somewhere you want to go. And the last part of it's have a discipline system. As much
Mm.
as all this stuff is good, most people don't have like a discipline system that is a bigger picture. How do I stay on this? Because here's the goal. When I talk about an identity shift, it's not something where you're going to plan it out to where on exactly in exactly 14 days on September 3rd at 22 hours and 35 minutes, I'm going to make a shift. Like, it doesn't happen that way. To be quite honest, what it is you go in and you have this plan and you start working the plan. It's kind of like sitting at a coffee shop. I know I got some work to do and I sit down, but I can't stop scrolling on the phone. And eventually I go, okay, no phone. Let's just focus on work. First 5-10 minutes, I'm paying attention. And I'm presently aware of me working. But then all of a sudden I wake up and 3 hours have gone by. Like, I just look at my screen. I go, time just kind of melted away and I was just moving and flow, and look at all the stuff I got done. And identity shift is similar. Like, the first couple days, you're trying to focus and do stuff. First couple weeks, it's like, wow, I'm thinking, but at some point in time, it drowns out. And then I pop up and go, I got more money. I got less pounds on my body. My wife and I are having an amazing relationship. The kids got a
Yeah.
great dad. Like, dude, I'm a different dude. And you try to think back, like, people go, well, how do you know? You'll know when you sit there and like you think about the other person you used to be, and it feels like it was somebody else.
Mm.
When I go look at the
I
guy
love
and
that.
that was the mirror, I can't put myself emotionally back in his position, because I've surpassed that so much. That was a different guy. He thought different, felt different, acted different, processed different. He did different things, and the different things he did got those outcomes. This guy does different things and has better outcomes, and it's easy. So it's a different shift, and it took place over like a 10-month period for me.
Wow, that's really cool. You've used this term identity quite a bit. And I want to unpack this term just for a second, because I want to understand truly what you mean by it. And it sounds to me, because you're talking about creating this individualized shift plan, you're talking about how habits affect identity, and how, oh, well, if you do these habits, you can create this identity, but it seems a little flipped. It
Mhm.
needs to be shifted around a little bit. To me, it sounds like you're saying your identity are your values, are like what you truly believe that you are. So
More
is
than that.
that accurate? Am I missing something?
No, it's part of it. It's a definite part of it. Here's the thing is your identity is who you are when you are not thinking about who you are.
Ooh.
It's just the natural state of how you are just doing. It's how you are being, right? How you are as a verb, how you are being today. It all comes through your identity. Now, your identity is comprised of beliefs, thoughts, actions, the big actions, your mindset, which is an overlap between beliefs and thoughts, your habits, which is between actions and thoughts, and your personal pride and ego, which are between beliefs and actions. So these all come together in a soup that makes up your identity. And it's not a conscious flow. It's usually happening in the way that you do you respond negatively? Are you pessimistic? Are you optimistic? How do you handle hardship? Do you tackle it? Are you an individual that sees opportunity and tackles it? Do you shrink under pressure? These are all part of who you are. And you don't talk to yourself, hey, are you going to shrink under pressure? That conversation never comes up. You just shrink under pressure. You know what I mean? Like so
Mm.
it's who you are when your brain consciously isn't thinking about it. Now that has been tuned. That happened through building through life, through foster care for me, through adoption for me, but then also through sports and through marriage and through business. We usually put ourselves in situations that are just either sheer survival or just haphazard, never thinking about who we're going to become while being this person every day. Because who we've been being has brought us to this point. We've become these guys right now. This is who I am from how I've been being every day. So if I want to become somebody different, I have to be different. And that be is like the daily actions, flow, thoughts. It's all the stuff that's happening without you consciously thinking about what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a powerful way to think about it. Um uh, there's so much I want there's so much I want to ask you about, Anthony. I want to be respectful of your time. But do you ever struggle with imposter syndrome?
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, here's why. At the end of the day, there is no reason if you are trying something new that you should have confidence in that new thing. That's the problem, I think, with the imposter syndrome. We believe at our core, like we have this anchoring to the outcome. I think the sheer fact that imposter syndrome has that label, it's like I feel like an imposter to that thing at the end of that path, we'll call it. So I don't
Yeah.
feel like the incredible speaker, therefore I shouldn't get started. I don't feel like the amazing, teacher, so I shouldn't become. Yeah, yeah, of course. You've never done it. Why would you? Logically, why would you feel like you're great there? However, I've always looked at, well, what if I identify as a person who gives effort in that direction? Because then I'm not an
Mm.
imposter. Now it's like, you know what? I'm telling you guys right now, I want to be a speaker someday. I'm not getting up there saying I'm the best speaker in the world right now, right? No, but I started by saying I want to be a speaker someday. So what does that look like? Well, that speaker he would do this. I try that and I go, oh, it sucked and I bombed. But you know what? I tried, bro. I did the best. I stood out
Yes.
there. I'm proud of myself today. Let me go. What did I learn? Let me go do it again. You idiot, you bombed. Why would you do it again? Because man, I bombed, but I learned this. Let me go try it. And then little by little, you become an individual that identifies with the efforts in the direction, not the end of the destination.
Yeah,
And so,
no, that's a great way to think about it because it's like you're not saying like, "Yo, I'm Tony Robbins." You
no,
know, you're saying I'm a speaker,
yeah,
and you're anchoring it in. Well, what does a speaker do? Well, he writes speeches.
yeah.
He puts himself out there. And he speaks. Well, you're not an imposter if you're doing that. You may be an imposter if you go tell people you're a speaker and you're not writing speeches,
Or you say
right?
I'm better than Tony Robbins. Well, then yeah, then that's
Yeah.
obviously you're being an imposter. But the idea is if you say I'm trying to do that and
Yeah.
you give yourself praise for the effort, now that the imposter syndrome is gone. There's no reason it should be there because you just did good work. And if somebody comes up and says, "Oh, but you ain't this," like, yeah, you're right. I'm not that. I didn't claim to be that. I just claimed to be trying to be that, and that's okay. So this is what it looks like to try to be that.
Yeah. What's a belief that you had that was proven wrong?
Oh, that I didn't matter, man. I mean, whenever your own mom gives you away, you're like, oh, you kind of suck. Nobody loves you. Nobody wants you. And then all of a sudden somebody does. You're like, oh, damn, I'm cool. So there was that one. And then also the belief that I'm a dumb football jock. What do I know? I'm just this football guy. There was this mentality that I didn't have any value, or I wouldn't be able to provide insight to the world of, people because I played the game of football. That was one. It was proven wrong because I came to find that people actually like hearing from individuals who've been at the top, like world-class level for something. So that was an interesting one.
Man, that's so crazy. Anthony, this has been awesome. I have a couple last questions that I always ask, but
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. I love your mindset. I love your personality. You have just this vibe about you, this vibration, this energy that is it's amazing to be around. And I wish I was in the room with you, but even virtually I can just feel it. I'm just getting this energy from you. But tell me how people can get your book, The Identity Shift, and find you online. Where are you at, man?
Yeah, man, I am. If you go to Instagram, Anthony Trucks, or anywhere, literally anywhere that has Anthony Trucks, I do this daily podcast called The Shift Starter Daily. It's 8 minutes. I drop a thought, and then it's you go on with your day. But the book, if you go to identityshiftbook.com right now, you can grab the book and then use the code EBC. Every breath counts, and you'll be able to get a free workbook, free digital book, and a free audio book. And the workbook's really cool because it breaks down how we do what we do in the methods. But that is, it's honestly, you do that work, all the things we're talking about that are concepts become real in that book.
And all those links will be in the show notes. So final 3 questions.
Yeah.
What's the most impactful book that you have ever read?
Ever read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's a good one. A close second is Outwitting the Devil.
I've never read Outwitting the Devil.
Listen to it.
Have to check it
Great
out.
listen. It's a better one to listen. It's like an interview with the devil.
Oh, that's pretty cool. If you could have a drink with anyone, past or present, what would it be? I'm sorry, who would it be? What would you drink and why?
Past or present? Past?
Anyone.
Who would I want to hang out with in the past, man? I would want to hang out with any past president. Only because I want to know what goes on behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about. It's like, bro, what do you know about Area 51? Do they really lie about you? I want to know that stuff. I would drink water because I'm not tripping off. If I'm gonna be talking to these guys, I want to be sober and actually know what the hell I'm asking and remember it. And that would be it. Is that the end of the question?
Yeah, sure. The secrets, right? And then last question. So this whole podcast, Every Breath Counts podcast, is all about, it's about gratitude. It's about energy. It's about making every breath that you take count and matter. So to you, Anthony Trucks, what does it mean to make every breath count?
Man, to make every breath count for me means that I'm literally going the route of never getting to the end of my life. It's this quote that I love. It's the last person you want to meet in your deathbed is the person you could have been. So like, I got to be this dude that doesn't get to the back end and feel like I dropped the ball because I didn't do the thing I was supposed to do.
Man, no regrets.
No regrets, man. No. At the end of the day, you're gonna have some, but like if I can just give energy, and like I want to leave life empty. I want to leave this place like feeling like I just did it all, whatever that is. Skydiving, hot balloon, hot air balloon. I seen this thing where the guy like rides a kite down a mountaintop. I wouldn't probably do that, but things look fun, man. I want to go live crazy life.
Man, well, you are making a lasting impact on the world. I love what you stand for. I love your mindset, man. Everything about you is phenomenal. I can't wait to read the book. And Anthony, thank you so much for your time. Guys, check him out. Identity Shift, the book, the podcast. Find him online. Follow him on Instagram. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. And make